Yes, and yes, the conversation is on. Apologies for that. And equally, gentlemen, apologies for the same. Henry Mwaniki and Patrick Minor, commonly known as Mike. And we might not have enough time to expound on this, but I believe on the panel that I have, or the panelists that I have on board, and we're going to make it as short and sweet. So, gentlemen, jambo tena, and we start off with this conversation from where we had started. And this is the question that we asked. What is the importance of balancing your finances when in a relationship? Mwaniki.
Thank you very much for that question. And I was going to say that when you look at two people coming together in a relationship, it's quite a number of dynamics are at play. One of the ironies of relationships is the expectation that our relationship will be perfect. Yet each of us individually recognizes that we are not perfect. So it's a combination of two people who are not perfect in their right, that's expecting an outcome of perfection when they come together. And oftentimes even finances is one of these aspects, because rarely do people go through a process that equips them, that trains them, that sharpens them, that disciplines them to manage personal or household finances. There's a general assumption that we have competence we are bringing to the table when we come together. Yet there are so many dynamics that inform how we relate with our finances, and they color how we will be able to do that interaction around that resource when it comes to relationships. One of the telling processes for probably those who walk the journey of courtship and into marriage is how you handle all those demands that will inform what becomes of your wedding day. Already you can start telling how we are predisposed towards finances as we journey there together. But in other contexts and relationships, it's less clear and you have less to go with. Just the trust that this individual is competent and will be able to handle their finances. And it's always a pitfall.
All right. Can finances ruin relationships, much? Based or from, of course, what we've heard?
In fact, Linda, one of the most challenging things in even premarital counseling is finance.
Okay.
The finance, the issue is, if you come to finance, it is the biggest problem that we have in the relationship today. Because we are looking concept that a man should provide, a man should be the one doing this and this. So the woman's money, niyangu.
But is it not the case, Mike? Let's be realistic for a moment. Should it not be the case anyway?
Linda, let me tell you the truth. Because we need the genesis of us on managing finance is the most important things in life. And that's why you'll find most of the people, the divorces and challenges in the marriage is based on money issues. If I cannot provide, then what type of a man am I? But both of us can provide. Today I can empower my lady to get a good job. But when she gets a good job, now you become a beggar. It's like now money have decided is the one determining factor on moral authority. If I have high money, if I have high salary, I'm bringing more cash, the moral authority now comes high. If I don't have some money and my lady is the one, like now this COVID, there's some people now are being sustained by maybe the woman because she's working, maybe she's somewhere, and maybe the man was in the business and the business have gone down. Those who did not manage finance well, who did not, by the word, go in courtship, develop some principles, they're having problem now. So the man has become a beggar. So this is something that, Linda, it needs to be discussed. and need to be told how do we go about finance in marriage, in love.
So that in a nutshell is to say that finances are important in any relationship. So in the event that finances are important, then at what point should couples combine their monies based on your argument? Because you say that in most cases women have looked at men as though they are the providers, so their money or money that is meant for the men is money that's supposed to be used. So when we speak about this, at what point then should couples sit down and say that, you know, it is time that we combine our finances and we chart the way forward?
By the word go, by the word relationship is starting. Like for me and my wife, my friend, we have one. There's no her money, there's no my money. Only what we have is responsibilities, different responsibility. I'll do this and this. By the word go, by the word say go. And that's why you find in many churches nowadays, one of the topic in premarital counseling is finance. Hata kabla waingie, let them know that how are they putting, what principles are they putting on finance. So should not come after tushaingiana ndio tuanze kuongea. By the word go tumeanzana. How do we start managing it? So Linda, this starts from the beginning of the relationship. How we go about it.
My take on it, Linda.
Yes. And equally, Henry, as you give us your take on the same, I'd want to know, should it start from an individual point of view? Because, you know, you find that we have different characters. Some of the people are miser, some of them are mean, some of them are generous. So when you two get together, if you've not fixed yourself, what makes you think it would be easy to fix the two of you?
Yeah, that's my take. That this is a question of trust. If for whatever reason, whether it's experience, what I have seen in society, my beliefs, my background, whatever it is, brings me to the conclusion that I cannot be transparent and open with my partner or my spouse about my money. And this, like has just been said, is from the very beginning, then I'm sorry, that relationship is already on a shaky ground, because trust, a critical ingredient, is absent in that relationship. There is no transparency. And it may be with good reason. It may be because of what I've seen, what I've experienced, what society has taught me, what in my socialization I've been brought up being informed. But if I come into a relationship and already I'm saying this part of my life, we are not going to share it, then already it is already compromised in that relationship. Now, how do we end up in that position? We don't go through any process that trains to manage and take responsibility for personal finances. I've been in the field training individuals, and you'll be surprised that some of our biggest beneficiaries are accountants and people in finance, auditors in their own right. They understand corporate finances, they understand debits and credits, but for some reason, that does not translate in how they manage around personal finances. So if individually you have not come to a place of discipline, of understanding the basics, of organizing around your money, then it becomes very difficult when you pair up with somebody else, that in that context, you will now become a successful individual. You cannot be a lizard in one situation and become an alligator in another situation. It will be consistent. So if you don't have discipline, if you don't have the right attitudes towards your money, then when you come into a relationship situation, it will not become better because you are in a relationship situation, unless the partner you are with is very accommodating and able to mold you and to help you along. So it starts with the individual, then it comes to the couple.
Comes to that point. All right, and almost on the very same note, might, then I would ask this. While we say that it's important that we sit down as family and, you know, chart the financial progress of the country, of the family together. And one would want to ask this. Specialists have argued that it is a bad idea to separate money. It is a bad idea to split the bills. It is a bad idea to see to it that, in relationships you have different accounts and all that. But in real sense, we also know very well that, if you meet together and you're empowered and you all are making money for the family, sometimes there's that need for one to attend to their own personal needs. So how can this be addressed so that we'll still have the same port, but at the same time we have the liberty to go out there and address issues that are personal without bringing conflict?
I think, Linda, this is a good question, but it's all about love to Genesis. Because money should come after that. Mm-hmm. If both of us, and my brother have said about trust, and I love this lady, I have this and this and this, then it doesn't become a problem. I don't see the problem of my lady having a float of 10,000 when she goes here and meet her friends and this, she's there. Or me having a float of 10,000 for me to manage myself, because there are some things which are personal. Ladies will go and see a dress, pap, it's not a personal, some things come and report, I did this and this and this. But if our genesis of love is one, if we go with Genesis 2:18, that you leave your mother and your father and become one, the concept of living each other, what the Bible says, it's even behavioral, it's even character, even money-wise, and you're one, such that hakuna ati pesa yako imeisha nisaidie, it is one. So if we have the trust, if we have the understanding of each other, if we are in a position to discuss, because some people might misuse, you might be trusting more, and the other one, you live 24/7. So ukiangalia kwa account, it's over. And that's why the dialogue and the communication and putting things right by the word go are very important. But not forgetting personal needs. Not forgetting, Linda, you have some friends after work and you'll have to buy coffee, something of the sort. You don't have to call me, sweetie, I want to buy this and this. No. You have a float that you can use on all the way you want. Na ikimalizika sitakuuliza ulitumia aje, because there's a trust.
Yeah.
There's that understanding of each other. So the concept of understanding each other, and especially, Linda, if the genesis of this love, in fact, I love my brother have said, there are people who are so much cognitive, understanding debit and this, but practical zero. Reality zero.
Yes, let's now be practical in that sense. When money is probably too much or there is surplus, then maybe one might not question much. But just how practical would it be for a family setup that does not have so much of money, but there's one individual that will say, okay, let me take something and go and do what so and so. Let me take something and probably send my mom. Let me take something and probably give the baby to do what and everything. Just how practical would it be? And how much more can understanding breed the confidence to, just say, it's okay, no problem, you pick this, but it's fine?
I think, if I can jump in.
Yes.
There are some very basic tenets of how we should manage our finances. And if we have those in place, then it becomes very possible for a couple to journey together in matters finances. So, the basics. Are you keeping track of expenses? Are you operating from a budget? Do you have an investment plan in place? However basic, it could be very simple, but do you have one? Do you have short, medium, and longer term financial goals that you are working towards? Have you worked through how are we actually putting money aside, bits and pieces that are helping us inch closer towards our goals and our intentions? Then what are our needs, our entertainment needs, our social obligation, black tax, what's loosely referred to as the black tax, because we have obligation in the context and in society. Have we taken time to just figure out how much does that amount to, and have we allocated something to it? So if we haven't done this simple conversation, then we make the mistake of thinking, because there is a common pot here with so much, I can keep picking from it and using it for what I feel is a very justified need. my brother needs some loan and it's urgent and I can extend it to them. Or we are having this very important activity and I want to be part of it. Or this wedding is coming up and I want to get an outfit for it. All of them well intended. Because the interesting thing when it comes to relationships, when people act, they judge themselves by their motives. But the others will judge themselves will judge them by their actions. So I have good intentions and motives, and that is why I'm acting a certain way. But my motives and intentions are not necessarily known by the other party. So I'll get a backlash or a reaction because possibly I was putting money aside so that I can make a down payment for a house, for example. But because you have seen there's some money put aside here, then you think, oh, actually I can take this and I can put it into the business to bridge our gap in the business because I need it. So is there a conversation and have we put very basic things in place? If you haven't, there's no way two can work together unless they're in agreement. The Bible speaks to that. So just basic, let's sit down and say, okay, we are a couple. We're in this together. We have kids here. There's education obligations coming down the road. We have retirement coming towards us in another 10, 15, 20 years. Are we putting something towards that? Have we separated that kitty? We have needs. You have extended family. I have extended family. We have obligations towards them. Are we putting something to address that? And when that is exhausted, what is our recourse? Do we go into the kitchen budget and say we eliminate meat from the next week so that we can be able to attend to this need? Just those conversations are not had around. And people feel my contribution, if I bring to the pot 30,000 and my spouse brings to the pot 50,000, we tend to feel, hiyo 30 ni yangu, sio yetu. So I have a say on the 30. You do what you want with the 50, but the 30, don't ask me what I did with it, you know? But let's say, no, we have 80. Our living standard and lifestyle is at around 40. Or let's squeeze ourselves to live at around 40, and let's spare 10 towards this, and 10 towards that, and 10 towards the other. If we have those mutual conversations, the likelihood of conflict is lowered. If we don't, and oftentimes couples don't, there will always be conflict.
Now let's loop in Mach on this one, and Wanike brings on board very pertinent points. But then the question at this point would be, yes, their interests, yes, their agreements. You've sat on the table and you have few agreements, but equally remember they are interests of individuals that would not necessarily match with the interests of your partner. For instance, you find that there's a family, the extended family, you probably have interest of helping your mother out there, have interest of seeing to it that your siblings are able to go back to school. So all this requires finances, and such could not equally be the same scenario on this other side. So how do you get to strike a balance on the same, and again do not end up making the other partner feel as though you are being biased, you're pegged towards helping your family as opposed to helping this other family. Your family could be needing help and this other family does not necessarily need the help. So how do you strike the balance?
Linda, let's talk about that. If Linda, we are together and we want to help your mom, let's talk about it. Because if you do it alone, later it might bring conflict. What you have said is all about how do we put things on the table? How do we discuss it?
This is a scenario that I just witnessed the other day. Someone said, we really do not have a problem, or this couple that does not really have a problem with helping, both sides. But reality is that there was one side that really needed so much of help. And in most cases, they will come to their son. So this son was complaining, you are making my partner feel as though I am focused much on helping my family as opposed to helping across. But I mean, honestly, just how practical can it be for individuals to acknowledge that?
Number one, Linda, we need to look about what is our ableness towards helping.
Yeah.
Because try to imagine, I'm just getting a salary of 50,000. And my lady, she's getting 20,000, or she's getting also 50. And now here is my mom, here is this and this. No matter how they are, I can only help. I can only stretch where I can. We can only stretch to this level. But if I concentrate, and especially when you come to extended family, if we are not very careful, we'll break the marriage. Because the way you've said, and I agree with you, we have different needs and everything. But those needs are supposed to be brought together and see how do we go about them. How do we deal with them? How, at what level, at what extent can we assist? You can't give what you don't have. You can't give everything to your mom and remain with nothing. So you just look the living standard. What is our limit? What is you have said about 80,000. So in the 80,000, kuna watoto, kuna sisi, kuna kazi, kuna bus fare, kuna fuel. At what level do we go now outside us and look about now my wife's family or my family? If we decide to help somebody in school, let's say this time, who do we take? Who is more needy? Kuna kijana pande yenu na kuna kijana pande huyu. Huyu amepata hivi. Can you look possibility? Huyu yenyewe, my dad can do this and this. And also maybe I have other brothers. I have other brothers who can also chip in. You know, dialogue. Then we say, in this side of you as Linda, yenyewe, your mom is a single mother, hakuna mtu mwingine, then I need to sit down and say, anyway, there's more need here. What is urgent and important? And what is urgent but not important? You know, we look those temperaments of life. What is urgent by now and what is important? It might be urgent but not important. It's the truth. It might be urgent and important.
Yeah.
So we dialogue together. And let's not me start empowering my mother without your consent, because that's now bring conflicts. So when it bring, and another thing, Linda, look about the situation that is happening in Kenya nowadays, where we give for the ladies, kazi yako ni kununua vitu za nyumba and this, and me, my salary, my finance is to buy shamba, to think about future. I have had so many cases in my office. Ladies who are so to the wamejitolea kabisa. Yeah, nyumba, house girl, what, all those stuff.
Yeah.
And the man is now buying the shamba, investing. When go haywire, the man says, no, where is sort? But the lady contributed a lot.
Wow.
She contributed. But now, the shamba belongs, it's my money. You know, we need to dialogue. We need to come back to the drawing board and talk things and share things, such that the Mwaniki have said, it is not my 30,000 is mine and this one is yours. It is now ours. When you're buying that thing, is combined. It's ours.
And because of the interest of time, much, equally, let me allow Mwaniki 30 seconds or so to also weigh in on the same. At that point where you want to make a huge investment, major investments for the family, I mean, how do you go about it? In about 30 seconds or so, as we wind up.
Okay, and also just to pick from that input also, I think just listening to us, there are very critical tenets of personal financial literacy that are gaps in our contexts.
Yeah.
So, for example, we use primary income to support our lifestyles. Whether it's giving, whether it's paying debt, whether it's school fees, and all of these investments, like the question that you are asking. But it's not primary income that should be going into that, and it will never be enough. And it's designed that way because, and we know we are Africans, we don't eat seed, we eat fruit.
Yeah.
And the reason why it will never be enough is because if it's not enough to meet your need, then it's your seed. We're supposed to be investing it. And it's a fruit of your investments that should be supporting your lifestyle and your benevolence budgets. But we take the primary income and we consume it. We respond to desperate needs around us. So if you're going to go into investment, like I said earlier, come to the table, say this is our common pot, this is how much we have, this is what we can apportion towards the investment. And the apportioning is at least 10% of your household income should go towards investment, minimum, every month. And then now agree what investment vehicle can we peg this to, and don't take away from that.
All right.
If you're not doing those basics, Linda, we are not headed for a good experience in future.
Henry Mwaniki, personal finance specialist, and Patrick Maina, mentor and psychologist. Time sadly is not on our side, but I believe that we've picked something that we can carry home and would be helpful. Thank you so much for keeping it TV47. That's where we get to wind up Morning Cafe. My name is Linda Alela. Do have the rest of a good day ahead.